Welcome back to Grumpy Vet Garage. I'm the Grumpy Vet Dino, and today we're doing power mods on the A90 Supra. As you can see on the floor, I have a couple power mods, and then one is a strut tower brace. But I want to go through each individual one and show you what I got. So first, the Blitz strut bar. The bar itself has these bars that are almost like a candy red. They're very beautiful. They're much nicer than I thought they would be as far as the color, and they kind of get lighter and darker, which I think adds a little bit of something to it. And then the center bar is powder coated black, and I thought this was going to be like a sticker maybe, or I'm not sure what I thought, but this is like laser etched into the powder coat. So this isn't coming off or flaking off unless the powder coat flakes off. But yeah, this is nicer than I thought. Also, this is modeled after, or I should say, the new GR Supra strut bar is modeled after this bar. And of course, you get a hardware pack. I'm assuming some sort of warranty card. Good luck for me to read that, I think. The only thing that's in English on that is Blitz. And then instructions, which are also in another language, but luckily when you get the instructions, granted it is showing a 4-cylinder GR. All of the bolts, it has it listed M850, so you can figure out what it is. And then as far as torques, it actually does have torques in Newton meters. So even though this isn't in English completely, there's enough of it in English for you to be able to install this bar. Next is the charge pipe that I got from Forge Motorsport. It's the same company that made the catch can that we use and already installed on the Supra. But it's a nice piece, powder coated black. Bung ports for sensors, new bolt for that. Also bungs with plugs for the future, maybe water meth injection. Also, you could do charge port injection if you wanted to. Silicone boot, clamps that are a little longer than I like. We're probably going to trim those down. And then pipe that goes through the turbo. Probably going to have to move over, well, definitely going to have to move over clips and I believe O-rings. You can download all the install instructions for anything from Forge Motorsports on their website. And this is the AFE Track Series carbon intake. Very nice piece. I think of any of the mods we're gonna do, this is really the only one that I think has the potential to make a little bit of power. But yeah, this is the enclosure. It utilizes the factory inlet, air inlet, and then also acts as a bit of a heat shield to keep heat away from the filter element. Also uses the factory mounts. And then of course you can see inside where it says Track Series. Not sure I'm in love with that. I might take that off. But it's really nice. The filter, it's a blue filter, not exactly in love with the blue filter. It's got a carbon fiber look that might be carbon fiber cap on the end of this, but this is their 5R filter. It looks like it's probably the same type of technology as like a K&N filter, but it is a nice looking filter. Hardware came with a couple stickers. Gotta love stickers. And then this piece, really nice silicone coupler here, fittings, and a spot for your sensor. But the carbon fiber on this is actually very beautiful. Very beautiful. And I was like, man, is it really carbon fiber? But you can see on the inside, that is a carbon fiber inlet. So a very beautiful piece. I'm really excited about this. I hope it's going to make some power, but if nothing else, I think it's going to make it more evident this is a turbocharged car. So I'm excited about this. To begin the install, we first need to remove some parts. So the first thing we need to do is we need to remove the engine cover, and that just lifts off. And then we need to remove, if you're just doing an intake and a charge pipe, you could just remove the one strut brace. But because we're changing strut braces, I'm going to remove both of them. The tool you're going to need to remove the strut braces is an E14 E-Torx, and it's just 4 bolts to get both. With those items removed, now we need to start working on getting the air box removed. To do that first, you need to pull this temperature sensor clip. So what you do is you pull back, which sometimes can be kind of problematic. Let me get a pick tool. Ended up just grabbing a flat blade screwdriver, but you need to pull this back and you'll hear a click. And then once you hear the click, it then turns into something that can be depressed. So you press it down and then you can lift this back. So remove that and slide it to the side. Then we need to remove this band clamp that holds the box to the actual inlet pipe. And that's a 6mm. So a 6mm on a nut driver or a ratchet would work, and just loosen that clamp. If you don't have a catch can like I have, you'd be able to lift this, once you disconnect this pipe back, you'd be able to lift this whole entire unit straight up. But I have to but disconnect the forged catch can real quick, and that's a T25 Torx. So with the air box removed, make sure to remove these grommets here. Those are going to move over to the new intake. So don't just pull this box out and throw it in the trash, because you're going to need some pieces off of this air box. So next what we need to do is, there is a small clip that is very fragile that has to be disconnected. So coming from the front of the engine, when you look down at the air box, and then here is the auxiliary pump. If you look down, if you rotate it a little bit, you see a small clip right, trying to get the light on it. You see it right there. My finger is going to cover it up, and then I'll remove the finger. You see that clip? That is the same style clip as any of the other locks that you turn around and press them and pull. So this is not the same clip. Of course, that one's smaller, but you take these and you press this together and then pull, and it depresses and comes apart. But yeah, that's a clip. You want to be very careful. It's very fragile, and numerous people, right there, not a good spot to see, but a lot of people break that trying to remove this intake tube. It's not expensive, but it'll definitely make your quick install a longer one. Okay, looking at this again, it's not in the instructions, but I've seen it done on with others who have taken their intake out. To reach your hand down in there to get to that clip is very difficult. Don't exactly have the smallest hands, but this clamp right here is a factory installed clamp. It's not something that you can remove and then reinstall, but it is something that if you remove it, you could just reinstall it with a standard large diameter hose clamp. But removing this tube first gives you more room to get your hand in there to properly get good purchase on that little clip down there. So I'm going to remove this, and how you're going to do that is going to be with a flat blade screwdriver. You're going to want to get in there. A flat blade screwdriver in that little hole. You can pry that up, carefully mind you, pry that up, and then remove this to give you more access down there. So I removed that hose, and to kind of give you an idea, take your time, but you're trying to pry that, and the side of the clamp that you're really trying to attack is this side to get these tabs to lift, and then this clamp comes off. And then once, okay, so getting down in here, the clip, I'm shaking the camera too much, but the clip is right there. And to get your hand on it, even with that tube off, is a bit of a pain. So I realized that the reason I can't get my hand in there is because the charge pipe runs right underneath that. So I'm going to deviate from the instructions, and we're going to move on to trying to remove the charge pipe, because I think that's really what's keeping me from getting my hands really on that clip. The charge pipe. So the charge pipe is held in, it's hard to see, but down underneath there is a clip. I'm not going to be able to really get you a good picture of that. But there is a clip that you pull out, and then it'll slip off the front of the turbo. And then over here, it's two fasteners. I'll get the size and make sure to mention them. And then it should be two sensors on top. So when you disconnect it, don't just try to rip it out, because there's going to be some things we're going to have to remove. But let me start by getting the clip removed down here at the turbo, and then these two fasteners up top. So the clip that holds the charge pipe to the turbo, I found that it was easy just to kind of go to the bottom. You could fill the clip and then pull down. Yours might not be oriented that way, but the clip flange is actually rather wide, and you very well could pinch it with your fingers and just pull it down. On the throttle body, those screws ended up being T30 Torx. So I went ahead and pulled those, but I still have the sensors I need to pull, but wiggle that and it pops right back. And you can see the sensors right here that need to be disconnected. So I'm going to take a second and kind of sort out what all needs to be disconnected here, and then I'll come back. Okay, that clip is disconnected. Disconnecting the charge pipe helped. It is still very difficult. You want to be very careful. I've seen too many pictures, videos, posts. People break those, so be very careful. Take your time. And then there is a clip. I don't know if you can see where it's at. It's on the mouth going down here. It's hard to see it. It really is. And I'm sorry if I'm moving the camera around. Okay, there it is. See that groove right there? I already pulled the clip out, but there's a ring. You need to pull that ring clip out of there. You can use your hand or use a pick tool. I actually just used my fingers and it came out. But you get that, and then this should come free, just like that. There is a sensor on it that we now need to get, and you see it right, actually not a sensor, it's a clip, right here for the wiring. It has to be disconnected. So I'll disconnect that, and then this will come free. So now that intake is removed, and here's our clip that we disconnected. And we've already removed everything for the charge pipe, and the charge pipe is loose. But you can see this bracket, and then the size of this. I'm not sure if it's a bellow or what exactly it is. But when you go to pull up through here, let me move my hand over. When you go to lift up through here, that's just too much mass to come through this area. So I'm dropping stuff. So I disconnected this bracket that goes right here over the auxiliary pump to remove it, or move it, I should say, not remove it. But it's stuck in there pretty good to try to get some more room through here. Sorry if I'm not shaking the camera. Through here to try to get this pipe to come through. I know it comes through. It's just going to take some time and some patience. Okay, so I have the pipe removed. Let me set it back up here real quick. So you have it disconnected, and as you go to lift it, as it comes this way, this big clip here, you're going to have to pull the hose, this hose right here that my finger's pointing at. You're going to need to pull it around that clip, and then it'll get it to come up further. And then once you get it up further, make sure that you're not damaging our little line here or anything else. You're then going to turn around and take the pipe, and you're going to rotate it and slide it out. But you're going to have to step the hose over the clip right there, this clip. But take your time, don't damage anything, and you can pull it out. So now we get to start the install of the charge pipe. But what has to happen is you have to move over the clip that goes on here over to this pipe. And then this green O-ring, you need to take a pick and be careful not to nick it or cause it to potentially cause it to leak. So be careful removing that on that end. And then on this end, this sensor and this sensor both need to get moved over to the new pipe. And then this O-ring right here needs to get moved over as well. So using some sort of pick, be careful and pull that seal over off of there, and then put it onto the new the new pipe. So I have the charge pipe set up, clamp installed. I tried to clock it so that this portion was oriented to make it easier to get a tool on it. And then go ahead and pre-install this clip. There's no need to try to install it once it's already down there. Once you pop it on, it'll make a clicking noise. So here's the O-ring in there. But yeah, you'll just turn around and snake it in there and press it on. So I'm gonna go ahead and try that now. Try going this way. That seems to be pretty good. And the good thing about this style of fitting is also it'll rotate. So once we press it on, it'll still be able to move for us to align it on top. So give a little wiggle, and I don't know if you heard it, but it clicked on. And we pull it. Yep, it's definitely on there. And I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it's a little loose, so we can move it as required to get it to the top. So you can see there, it's clipped on, and it comes up, and the orientation is pretty good. I'm probably still going to loosen this and roll it over. I want it to be more straight up and down. So now I have the other part set up. You're going to make sure use the hardware they provide. Don't put that, I think it was a T25. Don't put that back in to put this sensor in, because it's not the same threads at all. And then this sensor here, this I took off with a 12.17 mil combo wrench. It is not super tight. There are 2 O-rings in there. To provide the sealing, you don't need to crank this down. In fact, if you crank it down, you're going to damage this sensor. So just get it snug, not a lot of torque, and already moved over the seal. I pre-positioned the hose clamp on the pipe. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slip in the pipe and then stick it into the throttle body. The Forge Motorsport charge pipe is installed. I know I've talked about it previously. I do consider it to be a power modification, but this pipe, as it sits right now, isn't really going to add any power to this car. It does open up our ability with the 2 bungs to add water methanol, which I'm thinking of doing. Or you could do charge pipe injection, or if you so chose, possibly nitrous as well. But reliability of not having a plastic pipe is really the big thing. Also, it looks good. So our new AFE carbon fiber pipe has provision for the sensor. So we need to move the sensor from the factory airbox over to this. Make sure to use the supplied hardware that AFE provides on this. So the sensor has been moved over from the factory airbox, and now it's time to put the new air intake tube on. So the silicon coupler that is provided by AFE, it is directional. So if you look at this coupler, it's smooth here, and then over here you see a ridge. Let me see if I can get that ridge in there. There's the ridge. Because the inlet of the turbo has the clip style from the factory where it pops on, this is replacing that, and this groove is going into that section to grip it. So this is the side that will go towards the turbo. So I'm going to put that on, and I'm going to go ahead and tighten the clamp down, because once it's on, we don't need it to move anymore. We'll then be able to put the other clamp on and then slip our carbon fiber elbow onto this coupler. So now I've placed the carbon fiber elbow with the sensor installed onto the silicon coupler. Now what I need to do is connect the sensor back and then connect our favorite tube right there. I may wait until later, since I have more room now to do that, just so I don't put any undue stress on it while I'm installing the rest of the intake. So I may hold off on that little bit over there. Okay, so the carbon fiber intake tube is in place. The sensor's connected. Our favorite little tube is not on the fitting yet, but it's also, the clamp is loose, that if we need to rotate the elbow, we can. But moving on to the air box. So I'm trying to make sure to get this in the light. So the filter is installed into the box. It's actually got these tabs, if you can see them, that press up against the side of the box. and then there's a flange all the way around the silicon part of the filter that holds it in. So this is actually sealed to the box. Oriented the clamp so we can get to it easily. But the grommets on the bottom that I mentioned earlier, so you need to move them over. So one here and one there. And then this one, so as the box sits with the air intake this way, there is a small ridge on the frame rail that this has to orient to. So you see how it steps down. Make sure you have it placed that way. But with that installed that way, we can now slip the airbox into the engine bay and then connect this tube. And then once we get it oriented the right way, we can then tighten up all of our clamps and install our favorite little tube. So the box is in, but as you can see with my catch can, I do not like how this goes. So with the install of my Forge Motorsport catch can, I had to shave the heat shield off that factory airbox, and now it looks like I'm going to need to trim this aftermarket airbox. So companies, when they design these parts, they base them upon what was going to be in the factory engine bay. So Forge designed their piece to go along with what was in the engine bay from the factory. Whether or not they did a good job at that, you know, is kind of up for debate, I guess. But the same thing with Forge, you know, they base this pipe here on how the factory airbox went. AFE bases their air intake on how the factory charge pipe goes and how the factory doesn't have a catch can. So this is going to require a little bit of trimming. So I'm going to end up needing to pull this back out, and I think I'm going to end up having to cut this weather stripping and probably cut a relief with this box, which very well is going to let some hot air into the box. But this was never going to seal against the hood of the car anyways. You know, the strut bar was going to go over the top, and I already checked to verify that it fits. So this wasn't truly going to seal. I think this weather stripping was more to just make sure that you didn't cut yourself on the edge of the box. But I'm going to need to modify this box. I really like the Forge Motorsport catch can, but it just isn't going to work like this. I mean, it may, but every time I pop the hood, I'm going to see that, and I am not going to like it. So let me go ahead and modify this. So here is the air intake installed. You can see the cut I had to make, and I mean, it's not the prettiest cut ever, actually. Into the plastic. It's a plastic piece, but it fits now with the Forge Motorsport catch can. I don't think this is an indictment of AFE's design of their air filter. And I don't want to badmouth a company, but clearly Forge hadn't considered the fitment of other boxes, or maybe other boxes all sit lower. It's really hard to tell. I really like the Forge Motorsport catch can. I really like this intake. I like the charge pipe. But yeah, just they didn't fit quite the way I would like. We'll see how long term how I like this, but we'll see. But moving on, I'm not going to bore you with installing the strut brace. It's just the same thing, 4 bolts and then connecting a crossbar. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So as you can see, the brace is installed. It's a very straightforward process, just the 4 bolts and then the cross member. The only advice I could give would be to make sure everything is started and then tighten it down. Don't tighten down one individual bolt because it may misalign. So get it all started and you should be good. So with the Blitz strut brace, the Forge Motorsport charge pipe, and the AFE intake installed, I'm probably going to drive it around for a few days and see if I can feel a difference in performance, see if I can feel it in the butt dyno, as they say. And then probably we'll turn around and do a draggy run and try to quantify, if possible, the performance increases we may have gotten. There's not going to be any performance gain by the Blitz strut brace. I really liked it, wanted it. If I was doing some intense road racing, it probably would help with some steering input. The Forge Motorsports pipe is more of a reliability mod. The bungs for water meth in the future is really why I was getting it. Now the AFE intake though, I believe there's a possibility of picking up some power. I'll put it up on the screen, but AFE has a dyno chart from a Supra, a B58 Supra, where they saw over 30 horsepower gain and 15 foot-pounds of torque. I don't know if we're going to be seeing 30 horsepower and 15 foot-pounds of torque. I hope we do, and hopefully that will show up in the Draggy, and I'll be able to tell from driving it around. But I'll leave that dyno up on the screen so that you can look at it. Yeah, that's it for the first step, and hopefully building this 600 horsepower street car. If you like this kind of content, subscribe to my channel. If you have a comment about any of the install process I did or something else I could have done different, please let me know. Also, if you have ideas for future mods, I'm still looking on how I'm going to continue this process. If you have any suggestions on that, please leave that in the comment as well. Additionally, I'm working on t-shirts for the channel. They're not ready right now. I wanted to check the shirt out, actually have it made and see it before I put it up for sale for everybody. But be looking for that in the future. I'm really excited about them. Hopefully they look good and you guys you'll like them. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for hanging out with me in my garage. And until next time, see ya.